Good afternoon and welcome to Jaw Island. And our guest speaker, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. I'm John Evans with the Jaw Owners Association, Government and Community Relations Committee. Congressman Mace comes from a military family as the daughter of a retired general and school teacher. In 1999, she became the first female graduate from the Citadel in Charleston, where she earned a bachelor's degree in business administration. She subsequently attended the University of Georgia, where she graduated with a master's degree in journalism. She currently resides on Daniel Island with her 2 children. Congresswoman Mace was first elected to public office in 2018, winning the South Carolina House District 99 general election. In 2020, she was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives to represent South Carolina District 1. She was the first Republican woman from South Carolina elected to the U.S. Congress, and she is currently serving her 3rd term in the U.S. House, having been re-elected in 2022 and 2024. She serves on 3 House committees: Armed Services, Oversight and Appropriate Accountability, and Veterans Affairs. Please welcome our featured speaker, Nancy Mace.
Good afternoon, y'all. We've had our coffee today, right? Okay, good deal. Honestly, I'm so excited to be here, so grateful to be here. Number one, I want to tell you that Jaw Island was the first community to ask for a town hall before town halls were cool. So kudos to y'all, and I didn't have to use any 4-letter words on the way in. And we have some potted plants, but I don't see any ferns today. So I'm very excited that there are no ferns here to be thrown at me. I don't know if y'all, who saw the video Tuesday night? Anybody see the video Tuesday night? A guy in a dress literally picked up a potted plant. It was a fern. He was going to throw it at me until security stepped in and got in his way so he couldn't throw the plant at me. So I'm very conscious of particularly fern plants. I don't want them thrown at me. And now the left is saying today that I paid for the guy to pick up the plant. And I was like, if I had paid for it, he would have definitely thrown it. And I would have caught it and thrown it back. There would have been some kind of circus routine. But at any rate, so very grateful to be here. We just got our 2nd town hall request today from Hilton Head Island. So you guys have started a trend, and I appreciate it. We've been hard at work. I will tell you, we're spending more time in DC than we ever have. If you look at the house calendar, we're up there on average about 3 weeks out of 4 every month. And so I appreciate your patience in working with us on our schedule to try to get here. And we could not have picked a more perfect, more beautiful day. It's just stunning and gorgeous. A couple of housekeeping items. I'm here with the federal office, the 1st Congressional Office, so I cannot, ethically, will not talk politics or any kind of campaign stuff once we get to the Q&A portion. As soon as I walk out of the venue and you want to ask about politics, I'm happy to answer your questions, but I'm not allowed to do that today. The second thing that I want to mention is that we have a couple of staffers here today. RJ, raise your hand. He's one of our field reps here in Beaufort County, the Beaufort office. We have Alexa. Alexa, raise your hand in the back. She has some forms with her today, so if you need assistance with a federal agency, who are we going to go see at the end of this today? We're going to go see RJ, we're going to go see Alexa, see one of them to get assistance. So one of the things that we do, if you're traveling anywhere, and God knows you guys are literally traveling everywhere, please go check your safety deposit box, check your safe, check to make sure your passport is still good. Don't wait till the last minute. Please don't wait until 24 hours before your flight. It's very stressful for the office. If you can at least give us 10 days, that would be great. But please go check it out tonight, because if you're traveling somewhere, we, as a federal agency, federal office, we can help you with the State Department, passport agencies, etc. It's our request for the office, the biggest one we get right now is for passports. So y'all are traveling all over the place. We're getting ready to get into the summer season, so we want to make sure, please go check it. We also help people, for example, to get their IRS refunds. So if you've been waiting on an IRS refund from 2020, guess what? Our office can help you. Can't get the refund in 6 days. On average, it's taking about 6 months. But with Donald Trump as president, I think things are going to go a lot smoother because now employees actually have to show up to work. You wouldn't believe all the empty buildings in DC. Like, you can't process a passport at home. You gotta be in the office at work. And so if you need a global entry pass, for example, we can also assist you if you're having trouble getting an appointment for global entry and getting that. That is taking at least 6 to 9 months. I don't even have global entry because I don't want to wait 9 months. That's just a real pain in the you know what. But I use the CBP mobile app when I'm traveling back into the country. There are a lot of the airports like Dulles and others that if you have the Border Patrol CBP app on your phone and you're coming back in, sometimes those lines are shorter than global entry. That's just a little tip for you. We help veterans. How many veterans are in the room? Any veterans in here today? We also help veterans. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we're going to talk to veterans. I know we have cameras today. It's okay to applaud. It's fine. But we also help veterans get appointments at the VA. If you are struggling to get an appointment at the VA, please call our office and we will assist you. So any federal agency that you need any assistance with, we will help you. I sit on, so that's just the housekeeping part of it. I can't talk politics. I've got 2 staffers here willing to help you if you need any aid or assistance. I sit on 4 committees in Washington. Now, most members of Congress sit on 1 or maybe 2 committees. I'm a masochist. I like pain. I have 4. So I sit on the House Armed Services Committee. I sit on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. And then I sit on the House Oversight Committee, where you got Jasmine Crockett on one side, and you got Marjorie Taylor Greene on the other. Exciting times over there. But Oversight actually is the most nonpartisan committee we have. I actually pass a lot of legislation out of there that everybody votes for. Most of it's cybersecurity. My 4th committee is that I chair a committee on oversight called Cybersecurity, Tech, and Innovation. And so we do a lot of cyberspace. There's a lot of, obviously, talk about AI and artificial intelligence. So a lot of legislation that I work on comes out of that committee. Almost every Republican and Democrat usually votes in favor of it. Believe it or not, despite what the fake news, and there are a lot of them here today, but they like to print about me personally. I'm actually ranked the 22nd most bipartisan member of Congress. So if you are willing to work with me, I am willing to work with you. All I want to do is deliver results for the Low Country, deliver results for the state of South Carolina, and deliver results for the United States of America, and deliver on Donald Trump's America First agenda. That's what I'm there to do. And it's a deep honor of mine. I never thought as a high school dropout that I would be where I am today. I don't take anything for granted, as my staff will tell you. I work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I often have to tell my staff if they get a message from me at 5, 6, or 7 a.m. in the morning or the weekend, please don't answer it right now. Enjoy your time at home. Get to it at an appropriate time. But I'm constantly working, trying to deliver results. So on those committees, we have hearings almost every week. Because of the number of committees that I'm on, I can't attend every hearing because I will often get double booked or triple booked. But because the Low Country, between the 1st district that we live in or the 6th, Jim Clyburn's district, because they butt up against one another, we have almost half of all the military bases in the state right here in the Low Country. So being on House Armed Services is very important for us as a state. My service on the Veterans Affairs Committee, about 1/3 of all veterans in the entire state of South Carolina, where do they live? They live down here in the Low Country, either in our district or in the 6th Congressional District. I mean, we all know it's the most beautiful place to retire. If I could build a wall around Beaufort County, I would. It's so beautiful. My staff, we were driving down, everyone was like, I want to retire here. I was like, shh. Don't tell anybody about Downtown Island, Bluffton, Beaufort County. It is our little secret. It is our gem. And so I want it to be there for us when we all retire. So that being said, and then on the Oversight Committee, we're very productive there. And, that's a place where I got Kim Cheadle fired last year, the director of the Secret Service. We had that hearing last year. Did you all see the hearing with Kim Cheadle, Secret Service, after the president was shot? I tend to want results. So oftentimes being in Congress, we talk a big game, but we actually don't do anything. So there was talk about impeaching the director of the Secret Service, and we even had someone file a resolution to impeach the director of the Secret Service, but there was no teeth around it. There was no forced vote on the measure. So that night, I filed a privilege resolution, which would, when you say privilege and you file a privilege resolution, you force a vote within 48 hours. I did that because saying we wanted her fired wasn't good enough. We needed to impeach her. So when I filed the privilege motion last year, it was going to force a vote 48 hours later. She resigned 12 hours later. So for me, it's just not enough to just say we're going to do something. It's like, let's actually do it. Let's put our money where our mouth is. I would rather have a vote and have it fail on the floor, and to at least so that you know this is where I stand. This is where I am. This is what I think is right for our district and our state and our country. So we've done some of that. Last year, we filed almost 100 bills. So it's a lot. We are very productive. Some of the best ideas that we get as an office for legislation come from conversations that you and I are going to have today. I did a bill a couple of years ago called a tiny houses bill. And it was going to take containers and make a veterans community for homeless veterans and have the Low Country be a pilot project for this project. I got the idea from talking to a Marine Corps vet at a Marine Corps commemoration event right here in Beaufort County 3 years ago. His name was Ralph, and we just stood on the sidewalk on the side of the road and talked about homeless veterans and why more wasn't being done. And we came up with this great idea for tiny houses. I did it, I co-sponsored by a Democrat member, and we filed it. And I filed that bill every legislative session, so we're in the 119th Congress now. It just started. Every bill we had last year got dumped, and we're refiling them over. I do an incredible amount of work for women and girls. It is a passion project of mine as a survivor, as the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina, as a mom of a teenage girl, as a daughter, as a sister to other sisters. Protecting women and girls has got to be a priority, now more than ever. In fact, when President Trump was signing the executive order to ban men and women's sports, there was one member of Congress, only one, that he asked to speak on the measure. We did that. And so for me, it's a deep honor, and I am deeply passionate about that. I gave an incredibly passionate speech on the floor on February 10th of this year. And I've learned so much about the system in South Carolina, the federal system, the state system, local system, how corrupt it is, how broken it is. And you'll see a series of hearings on oversight related to that speech starting next month. But there's a lot of bad in the world, and I find as a female lawmaker, I have an inherent duty to speak up and to speak out and show that we have got to do better for women and girls. And it starts by banning men from women's restrooms. It starts by banning men being able to watch women undress in the locker room. And I got very angry when Ted McBride got elected, and he wanted to use the women's restroom on the Hill. And he wanted to use the women's locker room on the Hill. And I said, not on my watch. And I ended it, because it's that important to me. I have already, last session in the 118th, we filed over, probably 24 bills to protect women and girls. When I went through my trauma, I learned, and I read the Violence Against Women when that was done years ago, and I realized it really didn't do anything for women. As a survivor and as a victim, I really don't have that many rights. And the rights that I have, not all of them fall under a criminal statute at the federal level. They barely fall under a criminal statute at the state level. And when you're talking civil tort, there really was nothing there for a lot of the victims that I've been working with over the last year and a half. And so I filed a bill to prohibit and make criminal voyeurism at the federal level. Voyeurism is illegal at the federal level, but only in certain maritime jurisdictions, like on cruise ships, not everywhere else. There was no civil tort for it, so I created one. I did a bill for that. I worked on deep fake bills because now with the advent of AI, you don't want your little girl, your daughter, or your granddaughter's face on a nasty deep fake AI video. We don't want that either, but that kind of legislation we worked on. So we filed over a dozen bills to protect women and girls. There'll be even more this year related to the things that I've seen at the federal, state, and local level that I really feel are failing America's girls. And we just can't have these men in dresses. We should not be forced to buy into their minimalism. And I feel very strongly that we have to speak up, speak out, speak the truth, and speak it boldly. That's the only way we're going to protect women and girls. So it's something I've been doing for a long time, and I'm not just going to stop because some man in a dress picked up a plant and almost threw it at me. Not going to do that. Or because somebody might, approach me in a store. No, I'm going to be loud, I'm going to be bold, I'm going to be strong for women and girls everywhere. There are a couple bills and pieces of legislation my staff wanted me to talk about. The Save Paris Island, the Paris Island Protection Act is a bill that we filed at the beginning of every Congress to ensure that Paris Island is not on the chopping block. We've also worked to put it in the NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act. Generally, we want to make sure that Paris Island is one of the best places we believe to train Marines, and if you compare us to San Diego, we are better than them. Given the terrain, the environment, everything that we have here, the water, the air, the land. And despite the challenges where we have tides that might rise, the sea level, etc., we actually have some of the best things happening to prevent and protect against the environment. So on Paris Island, they have Tesla batteries where they can store energy. They can generate their own energy. They have developed a type of gravel, for example, to raise the road beds by 1 or 2 feet in certain areas that hadn't been used before. And they're doing all these things. They have a solar farm on Paris Island. So they're doing all these things and showing just how capable and efficient we can be on our military bases. So that's something that we all in Beaufort County should be very, very proud of. We worked on an American Fisheries Act, a bill recently that would protect commercial fisheries and shrimpers. We have a lot of competition, particularly from China and other countries that are dumping in fish and shrimp into the market that is undercutting American fisheries. And so we can have a debate on tariffs, and we probably will today. I'm sure that's a question that's coming up. But tariffs for our commercial fisheries off the coast of South Carolina actually help level the playing field for our fishermen and women and shrimpers off the coast of South Carolina. And I can't think of my son, somebody asked me today for Easter, who made ham for Easter? Anybody make ham? I said, someone asked me who made ham for Easter. I said, no, my son made steak and South Carolina shrimp and grits. And there's nothing better than South Carolina shrimp. I made sure of that. So we want to make sure that we're protecting a very important industry to South Carolina, and that bill does that. Earlier this year in January, when we were all sworn into office for the 119th Congress, there were 12 bills in the initial House Rules package. So when you're organizing for Congress, House leadership and the party in charge will put together a House Rules package, and it's voted on by the entire House, U.S. House of Representatives. And in that, we usually have about a dozen bills within the House Rules package. Guess who had a bill, one of the 12 bills in the House Rules package? We did. And it was a bill that would deport illegal aliens who are here in our country, who are murderers, who are rapists, and who are pedophiles. And there were 145 members of Congress who voted against that bill. That bill now sits in the Senate. Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee is taking the lead on the Senate side for that bill. And she's working on getting co-sponsors for the bill. We checked in with her office last week to see where she was. It's very simple. And in fact, it's something President Trump wants. I believe there's an executive order on it, or he's expressed, his staff and office administration have expressed support for this kind of measure. It was just last year, it was a 4-month-old infant here in Beaufort County, I believe in Bluffton, who was killed by an illegal. 2 years ago, October, There was a young toddler in the upstate, 4-year-old Maddie Hines, killed by an illegal who was deported under Donald Trump, let back in under Joe Biden. And we just had 3 people in Somerville, South Carolina, who are part of TDA. You know what TDA is? Tren de Agua. Tren de Agua, South Carolina, isn't even on the list of 16 states that the administration, that the U.S. government says where Tren de Agua exists and lives and preps. But they're here. They are everywhere. 3 years ago, there were headlines here in Beaufort County where a member of the MS-13 gang was arrested. What the heck is a member of MS-13 doing in Beaufort County? I did an ice raid a couple months ago, and we were in my hometown of Goose Creek. 18-year-old kid who was caught with 1/3 of a brick of fentanyl the week before, and that was enough to kill 1,000 people or more. And I guess when you're in these gangs, there are like trinkets, or you have like decorations inside your home where you live that exemplify or represent the gang or the cartel on which you are a member. He had items on a bear, some kind of bear head or something, I think they told me, that represented, they believed, Tren de Agua. And so, you know, this is happening everywhere. We know that there are certain places in South Carolina, I know in our district, I did a ride-along with North Charleston PD a couple months ago, but there's a road called Stall Road in North Charleston. That's where the Sinaloa cartel is. We know where these people are, and we know that they're here illegally. We had a sanctuary sheriff in our district, Kristen Graziano, who once represented Charleston County for 1 term and hopefully 1 term only. But I got her unelected last year because I found out that she was allowing illegals. She was letting them back out on the streets, refused to work with ICE, refused to work with them on their detention orders, on these detainees. And these were illegals who were murderers, who were rapists, and who were pedophiles. I know this because the documents my office received from a whistleblower. I won't say what agency, because I'm not going to out them, but we know this for a fact, and we've since gotten more and more information about what was happening while she was there. And everyone last year was like, what is Nancy Mace doing? Nancy Mace is going to protect you, your family, and our communities. I don't care if the person has an R or a D by their name. What's wrong is wrong. And I promise you, I will always stand up to defend you and keep our community safe. And I don't care about the consequences, obviously. All I know to do is to work hard and do the right thing and tell you the truth every step of the way. And honestly, it was one of my proudest moments as a lawmaker. Because we've done it time and time again. When elected officials are too scared to speak up, nothing happens. And I'm sick and tired of politicians who want to say one thing on TV, but when they get back home to their offices, when they get back home to the people and communities they represent, they don't do anything. So my oldest just turned 18, and I'll wrap this up in a minute, and then we'll get to some Q&A. My oldest just turned 18 and recently got into college in South Carolina. Really awesome. And so we were applying to colleges, and he got into the school that he wanted. I won't mention the name of the college just for his safety. We get a lot of threats these days. Bomb threats. I get bomb threats over town halls, death threats, my family, my kids, my employees. And so he gets into college, and we're applying for the dormitories, trying to figure out where we wanted him to be and which one and all of that. And as we go through the dormitory application, he's like, hey mom, check this out. 13 genders on the dormitory application. 13. And so I'm bewildered. I'm like, I have to see this with my own eyes. And so I see it, and he's like, you know, don't embarrass me, mom. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm going to say your name, not saying the school. But I did a video. I took that video and I posted it on Twitter. Now they call it X, Elon Musk's X. Wouldn't you know, 48 hours later, the school reached out. You want to know how many genders they have on that form today? 2. You know what it took to do that? Did it take legislation? No. It took one person, one mama bear, getting on the social media and saying, what the hell is wrong with you people? Fix it. And they did it within 48 hours. And that to me motivates me and inspires me more than anything. We just need people who have a backbone, who are willing to speak up, who are willing to speak the truth, and who are willing to make a difference. I will go to the mat for you. I will fight for you. I will stay up all night for you if that's what it takes to help you. That is how much I love the Low Country and I love the state of South Carolina. I am here, I am in it until my last breath, until you tell me not to. But since I've started this job, since I've been telling my story, since February especially, the amount of information that we have gotten about corruption in our state is bigger and worse than I ever thought it could be. I just got a 55-page file sent to my office about a pedophile in the Low Country who was arrested, who was put under 6 indictments for pedophilia that included toddlers as young as 3, that included animals. He was facing 60 years in Charleston County. Anyone want to guess how much time he served? 1 day. 1 day. And the Attorney General of the state of South Carolina dropped 5 of the 6 indictments, cut a plea deal in 15 minutes. The guy served 1 day in jail. I found another case this week that was sent to me. A mom who was getting divorced was told she had to pay lawyers' fees, didn't have the money, couldn't come up with the money. She spent 60 days in jail. She spent Christmas in jail. And so the system is so corrupt and so backwards. I'm willing to speak out for anyone. We've got everything documented, but the amount that I am just seeing, it just breaks my heart. But it fuels the fire that I have in my belly to make sure that I work just as hard for everybody as I can, because I love the job that I was asked to do. And there's not a moment that goes by that I am not grateful for it, because I know I've been in some tough spots, I've been in some pretty little places. The best place to be is when you don't care what the consequences are, that you will do the right thing no matter what. And that is my promise to you from the first day you guys asked me to do this job, and it will be my promise to you as long as you allow me to do this job. So with that, I would like to do some Q&A. I know we have some questions that were put together, and then if we have time, I would also like to open the floor. You guys can ask me anything. I'll take the toughest questions. So let's start with those.
Good afternoon. First, let me just introduce myself. I'm Bob Kane. I serve on the DIOA board and chair the Committee on Government and Community Relations. And I just quickly want to thank our members who are here. David Jones, Denise Mignona, Kevin Flanagan, who unfortunately is in the hospital today, I understand, Pete Bongiovanni, Amy Stone, and my new bride, Lori, who's sitting right here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We asked ahead of time that those of you that had questions, we asked that you submit them to us. We received over 20 that were actually unique. There were some duplicates, of course. And our hope is that we can get to each and every one of them. I'll start with this. One question is, what is your position on the President's proposal to eliminate tax on Social Security benefits?
I support it 100%.
That's pretty quick.
That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. The last thing we should be doing is taxing those in retirement.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of where the Congress is on that proposal?
Oh, we're nowhere right now. My sense is we're working through the budget and all of that right now. I am very worried about Congress's ability as we push through this year to deliver on the president's agenda. I think it's very good when he puts a lot of pressure on the Congress, but we had the Senate that pushed through a budget reconciliation package just a few weeks ago. The House version we sent over had $1.5 trillion in cuts over 10 years. That's nice, and I supported it. But if you were to cut $1.5 trillion a year, let alone 10 years, the country still runs a deficit. So I didn't think it went far enough. And what the Senate sent back a budget reconciliation bill that cut $500 billion over 10 years, which is the equivalent of $300 million a year. It was like spitting in the face of hardworking Americans, if we could be frank, and I'm going to be frank with y'all. But Elon Musk, in the next hour, is going to find $300 million in cuts. But there's so much in these bills, like the things that we've uncovered. This is going to sound insane. I'm really big on anybody like animals. Everybody love their dog, their cats. I'm a huge animal person, huge animal rights person. And the last couple of years of my work for animals, we found that we wasted $1.1 million that we sent to Russia to study Russian cats on treadmills. Like why? We've spent $26 million cutting off the genitals of mice to test mice whose genitals were cut off on a date rape drug used in the gay community. I don't really understand what that has to do with anything. I would prefer to ban all animal testing, but also I would prefer not to waste our money on these kinds of things. It's stupid. But there's waste like that. Waste, fraud, and abuse runs rampant. I am uncovering right now contracts, like IT contracts, cyber contracts in the federal government, where we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on these giant IT contracts, and half the people on the contract don't do any work. I just got that thrown into my lap last week. And why we allow this to happen in that particular case, there are hundreds of people at this giant government contractor managing the work of like 50 people in the U.S. government. There's like 800 people managing the work of 100 government employees. But half those people, 400 of them, don't do anything. So that's the kind of nonsense we're finding right now, and the Senate has to do better, but I'm not a senator, I'm going to say, but we've got to point out what's wrong. And I'm going to tell you, both Republicans and Democrats alike are part of the reason we have all this debt today. It's not just the left. It's not just Democrats. Republicans have led the way on this drunken spending spree for years. Might even say decades. And it's up to people like me to show what's really going on here and where the spending is. I mean, I did a bill last year after the storms. You guys remember the bill about FEMA? And taking away money that FEMA had spent, it was like $1.45 billion to house illegal immigrants. And the White House, KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, said I was lying and said that program didn't exist. In fact, it did. And we had both Democrats and Republicans over the last couple of years. They voted to fund this program, this $1.45 billion program in FEMA to house illegal aliens. Republicans voted for that too. I didn't. I voted against it. But that's the kind of thing where I'm just going to always tell the truth, and we got to shine a light on this.
Next question, since you mentioned Elon Musk, one of the questions we got is, do you support without limits the work of Doge?
If he can find all the unlimited waste, fraud, abuse, I am 100% all in on Doge. I love Elon Musk, and the kind of waste that he's uncovering, the kind of efficiencies that he's finding for our government are incredible, and I support it 100%. I wish he could do more.
Thank you. Next question. A little bit different subject. Do you support America first if it means America alone?
I don't think America's never going to be alone. We have so many allies around the world. In fact, I just met with a Japanese consulate here in our office last week. We have many allies, friends, and partners around the world. We're not an isolationist country.
Great. Since we got onto international affairs, two questions I suspect you could have anticipated. What is your position on the war in Ukraine and the president's efforts to bring about its end?
I want to see peace in Ukraine. Did anybody read the news today? What happened in Ukraine with Zelensky's comments on Crimea? That he didn't want to give up Crimea. I support the president. In fact, the president's staff just sent me a text message on the way here in, because he just put out a statement basically to the effect that if Zelensky wanted to keep Crimea, he should have fought for it 11 years ago. 2013, 2014, when Obama was president, was when Russia went in and took Crimea. So I agree with him on that. I want to see peace, but in order to have peace, there has to be a negotiation. I'm concerned that if there is not peace, that American troops are going to be in the ground in Ukraine. We don't want that. I don't want that. But Zelensky's going to have to come to the table, and he's going to have to negotiate. Is he going to be able to get the Donbass region back? I don't know, but there has to be some give and take here. We have greatly funded the war in Ukraine. Europe has done so as well, but we've got to have peace, because my biggest fear, if we don't get peace soon, that we will have American troops on the ground, and I absolutely do not want that.
In a related question, although a slightly different part of the world, what is your position on the war in Gaza and the president's efforts there to bring about its end? I
actually just visited Israel for the first time. I got back maybe just a little over a month ago. I spent 7 or 8 days in Israel. One of the most eye-opening and painful trips I've ever done overseas. I've taken several trips overseas, and even to the Indo-Pacific region, since I sit on the House Armed Services Committee, but it was painful. I went to the border of Gaza, where we heard shots being fired. I went to the kibbutz where the Bibas family, when those children's lives were stolen. And in the front yard of the Bibas family house was a tricycle that young Ariel had been on in the days before of his murder. It was still in the front yard. It gives me goosebumps to think about this. I went to the Nova site, where these young, hippie Jewish kids were slaughtered. They weren't murdered, they were slaughtered. And you look at the Bibas family wasn't actually kidnapped by Hamas. They were kidnapped by civilians from Gaza. I went up to the border of Syria. I went to the Golan Heights. I went to the border of Lebanon. I saw Hezbollah on the border of Lebanon. These Jewish families, these kibbutzes, these Jewish farmers live right on the border of terrorism. They are risking their lives just to provide for their country. So I also met with representatives from the UAE, from the Gulf states, the ambassador, and others. UAE is investing a lot of money, about $20 billion into AI here in the United States. I am thankful. But in order to have peace in the Middle East, we're going to have to work with the Gulf states. Somebody's going to have to help us with Gaza. These children that are being raised in Gaza are being raised to hate every single Jewish and Christian person in the world. They're being trained to kill them. They're being trained to harbor hatred just based on their religion. And it's not something I will ever support. But we do need our partners in the Middle East. We need the UAE. We need Qatar to stop messing around with terrorists. They want jets, I say no, until they get in line. Egypt treats these folks very harshly. I would love to see Egypt become more involved. Saudi Arabia's got some issues there. I will tell you, I've broken bread with folks from Saudi Arabia. Had some very tough conversations with them. But one of the things that we have done, and we have to look at from a foreign policy standpoint in the Middle East, particularly when it comes to Israel, is the proxy war with Iran. Iran is really close to getting nukes. Really close. And if you look at the JCPOA, there are certain measures within the JCPOA that are expiring that allow them to get closer to nuclear arms. My understanding is that they've met with folks in other countries to try to get what they need in order to deliver a nuclear bomb. And so we've got to take the proxy war with the Houthis strongly as well. I mean, they're firing rockets and missiles from Iran into Israel. And one of the things that the Biden administration did when they categorized the Houthi terrorists, they categorized them as the lowest rung of terrorism. And that means that they're not elevated to the highest priority of terrorist states or terrorist members, that other states can do business with them and negotiate with them. And so the Houthis are actually able to and do bribe the Saudis over some oil fields. Saudis get paid, and they have paid, from the information I have, the salaries of the Houthis. So it is a complex problem, but I know that Bibi wants peace. I've met with him. And the technology that Israel is developing from a warfare standard and working with the United States, one of their best allies around the world, and I support them 100,000%.
Thank you. Slightly different topic. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 calls for the suspension of all federal funding to universities if they fail to enforce the provisions of the Act prohibiting discrimination or the deprivation of civil rights to protected groups, including racial and religious minorities, on their campuses. Are there other conditions that you feel would constitute appropriate criteria for the withholding of federal funds from universities?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the endowment that Harvard has. I was recently at Harvard speaking to their one of their political groups. The endowment, Harvard has billions of dollars. And we don't like the anti-Semitism on their campus. Well, they shouldn't get any federal funding. The president of Harvard, I think just last week, put out a statement saying that the federal government shouldn't tell colleges what to teach. Well, if you don't want the federal government telling you what to teach, then you don't have to take a federal government paycheck. So, anti-Semitism on campus is discrimination. And I hope that the president will use the power of the purse, everything in his power, and I hope that Congress follows suit, both chambers, the House and the Senate, to make sure these schools that are raising lunatics, I mean, Yale. Did you all see the images at Yale? Where these students who had masks on, were covering their bodies up and faces up so they couldn't be identified, were blocking Jewish students from going to class. And my question was, are you going to make them wear a yellow star too? The kind of anti-Semitism on these campuses is disgusting and should never be tolerated, ever. And I will never tolerate it as well.
Question.
I support all Jews in Israel. Thank you very much. They are our best friend, and Christians are in their fight with them. I support them 100%. And it says a lot about the folks walking out of here when I'm talking about protecting Jews and religion. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Zelensky wasn't president in 2014.
Excuse me.
So how is he going to protect Crimea?
Thank you for your comment.
He doesn't have Crimea today,
Yeah.
so.
He doesn't because he wasn't
He doesn't. And Obama was the president. Obama was president, not Trump, in 2014. But I digress.
Let's see. Do you support public funding of vouchers for children attending private and parochial schools like we currently provide for students attending higher education institutions through Pell Grants and the GIB?
I support school choice. I'm a high school dropout, as I said earlier, dropped out of school at 17. I do support school choice, but I don't think we're ever going to fully have it in South Carolina. I drafted a school choice bill at the federal level last year. I would much prefer to see our focus on vocations. When many of us voted to have the lottery here in South Carolina, I thought when lottery dollars were going to flow into the state of South Carolina over 20 years ago, I thought that they would be going to the lower grades. If you look at the state of South Carolina and what we spend per student, we're about 25th in the country of all states on per student spending. But when you look at our outcomes, we're between 42nd and 44th in educational outcomes. Mississippi is beating us in education. And we have kids, it's embarrassing, it's so embarrassing. But for decades now, your state legislature has been, oh, we're going to do school choice, oh, we're going to do this great thing. And instead, they've subsidized higher education, where a lot of students can't go. And if you're able, we have a very low rate, we have a We have about a third of students by third grade that can't read or write. If you're not ready by third grade for middle school, in middle school, you're not going to be ready for high school. I would like us, realistically, I think it's more realistic than school choice, is focus on vocations. Like if you're not going to go to college out of high school, I want our students to be certified in a trade. So for example, if you have your CDL at 18, thank you. If you have your CDL or commercial driver's license, as a truck driver, you can make $80,000 a year starting out. If you have your welding certificate as an 18-year-old when you graduate from high school, those kids are making $80,000 a year or more. If you have your nuclear welding certificate, you are making $110,000 or more. If you are a plumber, has anyone had to hire a plumber lately? Okay, so my plumber summers, doesn't take a vacation. He summers in Cape Cod every summer. So every time he comes over, it's $250. He stays more than an hour, it's $500. And I'm like, I'm doing this wrong. The electricians, all those mechanical types of skills. There was an aluminum company in the 1st Congressional District, Century Aluminum. I toured their plant a couple of weeks ago. And most of their employees don't have 4-year college degrees. On average, those employees are making $140,000 a year with no college degree. So I would really like to see our state push for certification. Oh, don't even start on makeup artists. Those folks are charging $1,000 a day. It's incredible. We have so much opportunity, and so it's a huge opportunity. I don't want to see it wasted, but I'm for school choice 100%. But at the same time, I also want to be realistic, and we have got to 100% focus back on vocations and skills for these students getting out of high school too. But if they can't read and write, it's going to be very hard to teach them how to weld too.
So, given...
Yes or no?
I did answer the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Following up on this, since this is really a state matter, one of the questions was, do you have an intention to run for governor?
I can't talk politics here, but my statements, because I'm in federal office, I'm representing the 1st Congressional District federal office, I'm not allowed to talk campaigns or politics, but you can read my public statements about that.
Got it.
But as soon as I walk out of here, I'm not going to talk about anything else.
Fair enough. Should there be term limits on members of Congress?
Oh, 100%. But the problem is, the people who are in power, I have signed every term limit pledge known to man, but the problem is, the people that you want term limited are in power, and they're never going to vote to limit their power. Now, the one thing that we have as a party, and this is done at the federal level in the U.S. House, I don't know what the Senate does, but in the U.S. House, and I also know in the State House, that the rules of the game in our individual conferences, Republican conference, is that we term limit chairmanships. So in the U.S. House of Representatives, you can only be a chairman of a committee for 6 years. So that naturally helps some of the turnover, and the House is not like the Senate. Senators are there forever, right? But in the House, we actually have a lot of turnover, and I'm not speaking about myself, but there are a lot of House members already who have announced runs for higher office. Byron Donald in Florida, there's a woman in Michigan, there's somebody in Arizona, and there are a lot of folks coming from the House who are running for higher office in 26, and so naturally the House is a place of a lot of turnover now. That's not to say we don't have people that have been there too long, because we've got people on both sides of the aisle who've been there way too long.
There's a question that has to do with proposed cuts to Medicaid. Reports say that there's about an $800 billion cut to Medicaid. If that were enacted, will that have an impact on access to affordable health care for poor and working poor across the country?
Number one, that is not true. I have not seen a single proposal showing that kind of cut to Medicaid. So I, number one, would make sure that you're looking at multiple sources of information and news, and you're not just getting it from the left side. I have not seen a single proposal that does that. I am very concerned about folks in the system who shouldn't be in the system. I'm very pleased to see Elon and Doge finding out about the number of illegals who are milking our healthcare system, because they absolutely 100% need to be off America's healthcare system. So in the proposals that we have going on in the next couple of months, this will come out. I know that there are committees that are meeting and conferring and trying to negotiate and figure out what we are going to do. But that hasn't been decided yet. I haven't seen any proposals saying any of that in any of our internal meetings or any of our committee meetings. But there are folks on the budget committee in both chambers of the House and the Senate who are working through those measures to figure out how we're going to do it. And each of our committees, even on oversight, on budget, on appropriations, on House Armed Services, House VA, all of the committees are coming up with ways to cut spending. We have got to cut spending. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts on this. The debt ceiling deal that was done, a year or two ago, would get us to $50 trillion or more over the next 8 years. Our country cannot afford that, so we have got to get serious about it, but none of that has been decided. I have not seen a single proposal that says that at all.
Thank you. There's a question that asks, will you vote in favor of House Rule 38, and maybe House legislation, entitled Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, when it
Is that a
advances...
state House bill or a U.S. House bill?
I don't know who asked the question.
Is that state or federal? Someone said state, someone said federal.
Well, conceptually, if it comes to the
Conceptually,
floor,
talking about...
would it create essentially
What about
reciprocity for
concealed carry,
concealed carry?
open carry, constitutional carry?
It's entitled Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. So I'm guessing it's...
Okay, number one, I gotta read the bill, but I generally support reciprocity bills. I believe when I was a state lawmaker, I actually wrote a reciprocity bill at the state level, but I have to read it, but I generally support that.
Terrific, thank you. Let's see. We've talked a lot about, you talked in your remarks about illegal immigrants. A great deal of attention has been paid to the deportation of an illegal alien who lived in Maryland and was deported to El Salvador. Two immigration courts found him to be a member of MS-13 and ordered him deported. But there is quite upset right now in the media, as you know, about due process. Are there other things that an illegal alien should be entitled to before they are deported?
I might get them out of here now and never come back. That is my position on illegal aliens here in this country. I want them out, out, out. Under President Obama, under President Bush, President Biden, those presidents mass deported illegal aliens. They mass deported illegal aliens. And only because Donald Trump is president is it now a problem for activist judges. So I think it's deeply hypocritical. I mean, whatever the standard is, apply the standard to everybody. Not just the president you don't like, but apply it to everyone. And they're not giving him the same standard. The same thing goes with firing federal employees. Anybody want to guess which Democrat president fired 377,000 federal employees and nobody on the left blinked an eye? That was Bill Clinton. So the standards are just so different because people hate Trump. I gotta tell you, I think Donald Trump's gonna be one of the greatest presidents in American history. So thank you, Donald Trump. I sleep better at night. But that guy, there were multiple law enforcement agencies that identified him as an MS-13 gang member. He's even tattooed on his body, MS-13 gang tattoos. And I just want to say, let's just be honest. Have an honest conversation about what's really going on and do the right thing. I don't want to invest 13 gangbangers in Beaufort County. I don't want it in South Carolina. And I sure as heck don't want them anywhere in the United States of America. I'm done with that.
I am mindful of the time.
Yes, sir.
One of our objectives on our committee, by the way, in addition to bringing state, federal, and local legislators here so that you can hear from them and ask questions to them, is also to allow our elected representatives to know and understand DECA. And so part of our deal is we've invited Congresswoman Mace to take a tour of the island because, as many of you know, there are some major capital projects that are currently being planned, each of which will involve requiring permissions, permits, approvals, you name it, from various levels of government. So anything that touches water is one of those things. So you know there's some stuff going on at the marina and something called a bridge. And so maybe our last question for you, which is also potentially a request for assistance, is whether or not any federal funds might be available to help us subsidize the cost of a replacement bridge to the island, which is the only way we can get here unless you come by boat.
Well, number one, I want to say I take great pride in what we have done for the Low Country in terms of helping organizations, communities get federal funding. It's one of the best things that we have done. Again, we work. And if you call our office and you ask for assistance on a grant application, we will get you a letter of support within 24 hours. Noah, longest on my team, is our grants director. That young man, I say 24 hours, don't tell anybody this, but he does it the same day. He's incredible. We recently helped the town of Mount Pleasant get a grant for an exit off of Long Point Road. It was a $195 million grant. At the Hilton Head Island Airport, we've already, over the last 4 years, helped get over $23 million for the airport expansion project that's happening at Hilton Head Island Airport. We've helped Paris Island. We've helped so many different groups. I can't even, it's so much that we have done because at the end of the day, I argue a lot about how we're going to spend the money. I vote against most of it because I don't like it. But when that money is appropriated, I want to make sure that our district gets its fair share because your dollars, your tax dollars are equal to anybody else's from Connecticut or from New York or California or Texas or Florida. We deserve to get our fair share too. And not only is our district, South Carolina's 1st Congressional District, the 10th fastest growing district in the country, the state of South Carolina now is the 10th fastest growing state in the country. And you've seen how bad our roads are, particularly in rural areas. You've seen the traffic, and every time I come down here, it gets worse. Because of the amount, everyone wants to come down here, particularly to Beaufort County. It's so beautiful. But we want to make sure that we're helping and assisting. Noah will help with the grants application process, but also on the permitting side of things, we've had a lot of success. Guess what? The Army Corps of Engineers doesn't like it when they get a call from Nancy Mace. They don't like it. Nobody does. But that's what makes it so effective. We helped Daniel Island and Berkeley County get a permit for a bridge they've been working on for months. And they were getting held up and they were getting talked to both sides of the mountain from multiple agencies. And Boyd Gregg on the city council for Daniel Island for Charleston called me up on a Friday afternoon. And we called the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We got that permit expedited in like 2 hours. Been waiting months. We got it done in hours. Berkeley County was having an issue with a dredging project and getting a permit done. And originally, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers said you don't need to get permission for this permit from the local agency in Charleston. But the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers about 2 years ago changed their policy, and then you got to go to a regional person in Atlanta. And they've been waiting months to get this permit done. And if it hadn't been done by he gave me a call on Friday, the county did. Johnny Cribb, as county supervisor, he gave me a call on a Friday, and if it wasn't fixed by Monday, the county was going to lose like $25,000 a day. Something crazy like that until they got the permit, the holdup was going to be. We got it done over the weekend. The guy they needed approval from was on vacation in some island in the Caribbean, and we got a hold of him, and by Monday morning at 9, that permit was signed, and the county didn't lose a dime. So I love that some agencies are afraid of me because it makes us very, very effective. When you need a permit or you need any kind of assistance, we are here for you, and I'm really proud of the team you've assembled, how hard they work, and we're absolutely willing to help you all figure it out, find it, and support you in that endeavor.
I have two things to do. One is, John, stand up for a second. John Evans has been working his butt off to make this opportunity happen. Going all the way back into January, I think. John, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Second, I think the Congresswoman would be willing, if anybody would like, to have just a couple of minutes of personal conversation or photographs. That would work?
We'll line up over here on this side. I'll stand over here, and my staff will come up and assist. But if you like a handshake or want to talk to the staff, we'll be up here, and I'm happy to take a photo if you would like to.
The time will be limited because we're going to make this tour happen.